Hi, I'm Owen McGubbins here with Right Aligned, and today we are in a conversation with Svetlana Graudt. Hi, Svetlana.
Hi.
Could you get us started just by introducing yourself in your own words?
Hi. So Owen found me in Reykjavik, where I'm currently residing, but I'm not from here. I was born in Moscow, where I studied English and became a journalist in the early 2000s. In 2004, I moved to London to study for a master's in international journalism at City University, London, and ended up living in London for 12 years. So did various things from journalism to copywriting at a branding agency in Soho, to corporate intelligence work. It's when you maybe we can talk about this later. So it's like being an investigative journalist,
Mm.
but for lawyers and oligarchs. And I moved to Reykjavik in 2016 because my boyfriend is from here, and that I met him here in a swimming pool. Icelanders really love their swimming pools, and
Nice.
all the foreigners too. And you sit in a hot tub, you're relaxed, and you just end up chatting to somebody. And so, uh, 10 years, almost 10 years. Yeah, we're still chatting.
That is a good story.
Yeah, that's me. That's my life professionally. I've always been, I have a interested in writing. Maybe it started with writing letters to my pen pals in America,
Cool.
like a long, long time ago. And when I graduated from university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And at the time, I was doing Scottish country dancing at this hotel. Was taking these lessons, and one of my dancing partners was a journalist, and he said, "I'm just launching a magazine here in Moscow. It's in English. It's for the expat community. Why not just come and join? You won't be making coffee, but you can start writing." Which I did. I just went out, I looked for stories, I interviewed people. He gave me probably the best advice. If you want to be a better writer, a good writer, or a good journalist, read good journalism. So he recommended The New Yorker
Mhm.
and The Economist, and I still subscribe to The New Yorker magazine. It arrives in my mailbox here in Reykjavik, and it's a really solid advice. If you
Nice.
be
That
better,
that
read
is
good.
super cool.
Yeah.
So in Scotland, you have to do Scottish dancing as part of school. But I think this is this is the most interesting thing that I've heard come out of it. Because most of the time, if you're in Scotland, like Scottish weddings is the only time you get to use Scottish dancing, but I've never heard of somebody actually getting into a career through
Yes, first you're like dancing strip in the willow. Next thing you're
it.
roaming the streets of Moscow, interviewing people. Then and it's something that suited me really well. I love people. I'm curious about them, and I love asking questions. And later on, I became a copywriter, so working in branding and advertising.
Mhm.
And now I am a brand strategist and asking good questions. Actually, for a writer as well, a copywriter, you need to know how to ask good questions and not afraid of it. And because, like in all kinds of scenarios, it's just one skill that's also very important for a freelancer,
Hmm.
whether you're a freelance writer, a strategist, or a designer, because you need to know exactly what you're doing, and you have to know how to ask your client all the right questions.
Yeah, and I always find it's not just about asking good questions, but being able to ask the same question in multiple different ways so that you can extract the information that you need. And also so the person doesn't necessarily know that you're asking them the same question over and over again.
Yes, that's true. Asking questions, asking for for things like to get paid or asking for work. You need to be clever. You eventually you learn how to, ask and not offend.
Mm.
By being too direct, sometimes sometimes you have to be uh, direct and depend. You just have to like read the room, because
Mm.
with the Brits, when I lived in the UK, you just do this little dance, before you say anything. You have to say the polite things.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to talk about the weather.
Uh-huh.
Um, Maybe here in Iceland, people are really, direct, and you just say what you need to say, and use really simple language, because nobody has time or mental capacity, to think about like what did she actually mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably recognize this.
Oh,
Some of
100%.
the
In fact,
German stuff.
if you hadn't brought it up, I was gonna bring it up myself as how there's this thing that we feel British people feel we have to be polite a lot of the time. And yeah, sometimes it just gets in the way of actually what you want to say. And I have definitely had that, especially early in my career, where I'd be say something and someone just didn't get it. Someone didn't get that actually I was actually pissed off at the situation, or I was wanting them to do something for me, and they were just thought, oh, that was a nice little message. And I'm like, no. Yeah, I messed up.
Yeah, you would say, "Oh, I really like this idea," but so that's your sign that no, this is not. They don't really
Oh,
like your idea.
that's my I hate that. It's like I really like this, but let's change everything about it. It's like just tell me you don't like it. That's fine. Just tell me what it is we want to improve. So I love people who are journalists. I have quite a few friends that are journalists. I find it fascinating career. So how did the stuff, apart from like being able to learn the right questions, how did that kind of work set you up to work in branding?
It was just an invitation. The company, the so how did this come? Let me think. I think when you are a journalist, you need to learn how to write a great headline that will capture people's imagination, that will capture their attention, and that they will want to read your stuff. So this is number one. What comes after, like you need to say everything in the first paragraph. And we know that a lot of branding stuff, like it's short, short sentences, short
Mm.
paragraphs, where you have to tell people exactly what they're going to get in the first, couple of sentences.
Mhm.
So that really helped. But I kind of fell into branding by accident. This is because the agency I was working with, no, I was working for Russian. I was working for a newspaper. So, okay. Uh, a designer whom I knew said this agency in Soho was looking for a Russian-speaking writer, a copywriter. I had no idea at the time what a copywriter did and what branding was. They had a Russian client, a major phone network that was just modernizing.
Mm.
And they needed somebody who spoke Russian, who could write in Russian, but was also really good at English, who can be idiomatic in both languages, because they were going from formal to a very conversational tone of voice, conversational copy. This was something new. That was many years ago. And I came to a meeting, and we just got on like house on fire with my future boss. Yeah, and they hired me, and that was the beginning of my career in branding. When that client, when that job finished, that project finished for the client, I just ended up staying and writing for Adidas, for Barclays Bank, lots of copy for Virgin Media. They were selling broadband, and you had to rewrite lots of how-to guides, because the brief was make it so simple that just your grandmother could connect connect the Wi-Fi or whatever, the TV box herself. So that was a lot of fun. And then I just ended up working in corporate intelligence. So people always joked, oh, you're a Russian spy, but it wasn't like that. But in London has a lot of companies that work for lawyers, for the oligarchs. The situation is a bit different now, but back then, they go to court with each other, and the lawyers need to know background information about the opponent. So you kind of research that. You also did a lot of due diligence. If, for example, if Tesco wants to buy beans from a farmer in Uganda, say they need to know that they're okay, they're not connected to any gangs. So you just connect, or just whatever, that everything is above board. Or if the bank wants to hire a new director, you have to check, you have to talk to people. This is like being a journalist. You need to maybe call somebody up, or find somebody who knows somebody who can recommend this guy, or say, well, no, he actually didn't do such a good job.
This sounds fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating. Because like I do brand research for branding projects, but it's never this kind of in-depth. If I need something like that, I'd hire a specific researcher. But the corporate due diligence stuff sounds amazing. Did you ever find, and obviously don't say anything you're not allowed to say, did you ever find something like really bad that was like, oh damn, these people, we need to like stay away from them?
You always find things that are a bit unsavory. But the weirdest thing is having to go to court, and in court everything is out in the open. That was one thing that really shocked me. You'll find out where somebody keeps their money at home, like if they're in dispute with their maybe wife, I don't know, or some partner at work. The lawyers ask all these questions, and you have to tell the truth. And just anybody in the UK can just come into the Royal Courts of Justice and sit there and listen in. And you find out so much about people. You can just sit there and take notes and learn so much, and write books probably based off of that, because people's stories are absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, they are. Oh, wow. So just as an aside, could you give us a top research tip, like something that you've taken from that kind of time that you've then applied to your work?
I think the best research tip is let people talk. Ask a question and then shut up. And see what they say, because silence makes people uncomfortable. You can't apply this to every situation, but you ask a question and just wait for the answer. And then people feel compelled to speak and say something funny, and also not funny. They will say something that's interesting to you, possibly. Another what I remember is that you probably get the best answers when the dictaphone is off, when the recorder is off, when you're standing by the door about to leave and you're just chatting, and that's when people's guard goes down, and that's when you get can get really juicy stuff. And it's also very important with research is to check your sources, make sure they're absolutely watertight, so you don't look foolish when somebody says, "What, this actually isn't true."
I like that. Just let people talk. Something that when I was just starting out, a sales tip that I got from someone was like when you're in a sales conversation, and you sat across from someone and they've made you a cup of tea or whatever. When you always leave a bit of your drink in the bottom of your cup, your tea, your coffee, whatever, so that when you then give them the price and ask them if they want to go ahead, you take your drink and just as slowly as you can.
Wait for the
And you
answer.
just wait, because as you say, that uncomfortableness will make them talk. Um, I tried it a few times. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it's not. I think you need to obviously do the prep work before it and lay the foundations. But yeah, it's a definite good one.
Yeah, I have another thing which is I think I find quite useful is don't be afraid to ask really simple questions, really basic questions appear maybe silly to another person. But if you're trying to get to the truth, the human truth and some, brand truth, which is actually based on human truth,
Yeah,
just ask like why, keep unless you have to understand stuff yourself so you can, to such an extent that you can explain it
yeah.
back to people. So, we all want to appear like we're very, very smart, very professional.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it's like ask a questions. They may appear silly to the other person, but you're gonna make your job easier for yourself down the line.
Yeah, 100%. Especially if you work on a variety of projects, right? Because you can't be an expert in everything. So if someone's coming to you with something, a novel idea or a project you've never worked on or a thing that you've never even heard of, we got that recently with a client who's come and it's like, oh, I've got this new idea for something that I'd only ever read about in sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is this? Is there a market for this? Who wants this? And then the person talks and talk to some other people and actually get some really clear ideas. It's like, oh, actually, yeah, it might be novel to me, but it's not novel to the world. And by, yeah, you're not dumb. What is it? Wisdom starts with accepting you don't know. I think that's not the actual quote, but it starts with that just acceptance of, okay, I don't know. So let's ask some, yeah, like you say, some basic questions. That's good advice.
Yeah, and it's okay. This is another bridge from journalism into brand strategy for me. I don't know, like you get a variety of projects, you work in a variety of clients. Let's just find out, you become a detective.
Yeah.
Let's talk to people and build this world, this picture, find some answers, and then you kind of solve the case, pass it on to the client, and they run with it.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I especially liked what you said about the best information comes when the dictaphone's off. Because I've always said that with when I've had brand meetings with clients, it's always the stuff that they say when they're not even thinking. They're just
Yeah.
chatting, they're just telling you about something, and it's like, that's it. And they're like, what's it? It's like that little thing that you said. I'm like, did I say that? And it's like, yeah, literally 4 sentences ago. Like you said this little nugget of information that's what we're going to use. That's the concept. That's the idea that we're going to run with. Yeah, it's excellent stuff. Um, so how have you found it moving from place to place to place as you've worked? Because I'd imagine the cultures are different, environments are different. Um, how has that either like affected your work, or how has it helped you develop as a creative person?
It definitely gave me confidence because when I moved to London, I didn't have contacts or friends there. Maybe one journalism contact whom I called so many times to try and get work experience, and I broke down that wall eventually, and step by step. You can meet some people, you do a good job, they like you, and I'm a big believer in fostering relationships. Mm, some people I'm still in touch with, from what, 10-15 years ago, when I was working on the newspaper, when I was working on the branding agency, because these relationships, you nurture them, not because you want to get something out of these people, but you happen to like them and respect them. And it's happened a few times that they've come back to me many years later. Can you work on this project with us? Can you write this copy for us? So that's been really helpful. So everything I did, I kind of did myself. I'm proud of it. When I moved to Iceland, so in the UK you don't never feel, or in London, I'd say you don't feel like you're a foreigner because everybody is a foreigner, and English is an easy language to master, and I spoke it quite well. I write in it every day. I'm quite good in English. But in Iceland, it's a very small population, and it was very isolated society until quite recently. It was the hardest, I think, nut to crack. I tried. Many foreigners here, they start, people well educated, it just start with washing dishes, working as a teacher in the kindergarten, to learn the language, and then try to get an education, get an Icelandic degree and get a proper job, a good job, professional
proper job.
Yeah. So I did dishes. I worked as a Northern Lights guide. That was a lot of fun because you tell the same story in so many different ways. You give the same facts, but you read the book. You're like have 50 people. I'm there with a microphone. Then you tell them stories. It's about storytelling. They maybe don't want to know so much about the science behind the Northern Lights. They maybe want to hear about your life and how you live here and how much you make and how did you meet your Icelandic boyfriend, or what it's like to send your kid to school here, things like this, or Icelandic sagas, whatever. There's lots of things. And here I wanted to be a copywriter. I just wanted to carry on, not give up what I really love to do. So I found somebody, got in touch, just writing cold emails. I said, "Oh, you have this website. It's got lots of mistakes. I can rewrite it for you." And that one person gave me a chance through that. Sometimes just takes one person. You just have to grab this opportunity. Then I met some other people who liked me, liked my work. They had a project, one, first, second project. Then they got a client who was rebranding, and they asked me to write, the mission, the vision, all of these things for the client. And the client liked it so much, they hired me full time. And it's happened twice to me here. I was a freelancer for this ad agency, and then they end up hiring me full time. So I can say that it's been like incredibly hard, but I did it myself. So this is what moving from country to country, has taught me. And it's not, you have to be quite, I think, strong person sometimes. It's what it takes, but often also you need to be open to asking for help. I just don't know how else to do it. I reach out to people. If they say yes and they meet me for a coffee, then I get the information I need. Maybe they can have some ideas for me. Great. If they say no, and lots of people often, they don't answer your email, they don't know who you are, so they don't trust you, so they just ignore it. But that's okay, but ask and you shall receive eventually. So I'm a big believer in that.
I like how you go into that, because I was going to ask you specifically about this, because obviously as a journalist you have to do lots of reaching out. You mentioned that earlier on, how you'll just pick up the phone and you'll ask people questions and that kind of thing. Speaking to freelancers, this is a place that they'll struggle. I think it's like it's the fear of the no. It's the fear of being told no. It's the fear of the rejection. but it seems I was going to ask how you overcome that, but it seems that you just you maybe just do it. Is that the case, or do you really have something inside you that
I
forces you to do this?
I have really bad days when I think I've got all this experience. I have so much potential, but there are no takers. Nobody wants me. Like I've tried everything. I've upped my game on LinkedIn. I write posts, um, try to be useful. I go to these seminars. Sometimes companies here have like meetups and like about advertising, about project management, whatever. You just go out there and you meet people, but it does not result in work.
Hmm.
Very importantly, money in your pocket, which is really important, to freelancers.
Mhm.
And there's just rejection after rejection. I've been so out of full-time work for more than 8 months, and I'm sending out resumes. I'm not fluent in Icelandic, so that's a big drawback for me if I want to work in a marketing department of a big Icelandic company that
Yeah.
doesn't have international clients or in an advertising agency.
Hmm.
But often people use it as an excuse. But I I don't think it's for freelancers who may be living in a foreign country, and we shouldn't think, oh, I'm less than what I am because I don't speak the local language fluently.
Hmm.
Thinking is, because what we are doing, we're thinking, we're drawing pictures, we're making videos, and there's a lot of value in that. I don't think language is like a number one thing that should prohibit us from doing amazing work in the countries where we live.
Yeah, totally.
And
Um,
yeah, go on.
no, no, you go for it.
Yeah, so there are no so I'm looking for a full-time job as well as freelance projects because never put your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
I met It's really helpful. No, it's amazing if you find somebody who could be your creative partner. This is what I did. Uh, I met another Russian woman who lives here, and she had a very good career in B2B kind of services and back in Moscow. And our skills complement each other.
Excellent.
And we said, nobody's hiring us, for in any full-time positions at the moment. Let's start our own agency. It's really, really scary. It's like you're walking it on the stage and you're naked, and because you are out there saying you make your presentation, I can do all these things.
Mhm.
You know, you of course you have doubts. Will anybody be interested? Will there be any takers? But for us, for mental health, just for our um, self-confidence, this has been quite a good thing
Yeah.
in the early days.
Um, yes, I definitely know the positivity of that when it's like it's not you don't it makes you feel less alone.
Yes.
It gives you someone to bounce ideas off. It makes you feel like the load is shared. And when you can do that, like what I've been trying to do this year is have more creative connection because I've worked as a freelancer for a long time. It's like my wife and I work on projects together, but don't have lots of connections with loads of people in the design scene just because of the way that I learned and came about that kind of thing. So exactly what you're saying, having somebody else that's there just makes you feel more alive, that you can actually have these positive conversations about work that aren't just trying to like sell yourself to a client who might not even understand what you do or how you can help. It makes you feel worthwhile, I think, having that partner there.
And exactly, if you're creative, you maybe have ideas, but you're not very well organized.
Yeah.
Your partner, she writes down the to-do list and she just puts the presentation together,
Hmm.
in a day. Well, it might take you a few days because you're going to think about it and you want it to be perfect.
Hmm.
So it's finding a great creative partner it's just my new thing, and I think it's going to work out really well.
Yeah, I hope so. I checked this out. Is this Raketa?
No, Raquette is my own brand. I thought I work in branding. I want to carry on work in branding. I'll create my own brand, and I worked with the designer in Riga, and I wrote her a brief. I have my own set of guidelines and all of that. So I have my own brand. But this other project is we decided to call it Easy Peasy because we are just we want more lightness in our lives. And Iceland is quite a great place most of the time. We just want to help people do their marketing, do their branding in this light and simple way. That's why we call it Easy Peasy, but spelled in the Icelandic kind of with the with Icelandic characters.
I don't know what any of the Icelandic characters mean, but I always remember, is the like D with the cross?
No, it's I'm not sure how to even call it in English. In Icelandic, it's strik. It's like a little strik.
Okay, I'll look into this. But yeah, it's an interesting language to look at, although I wouldn't even begin to start to think about how to read it.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. So Icelandic is work in progress. But what I'd say, I think people underestimate how much insight can an outsider bring to an already established culture or idea. And this is you come in and say you ask, do you really have to do it like this, like you've done for 10 past 10 years, because you're new. And you're an outsider, and I think it just brings a certain, you can break the rules and just freshen things up, and add this zest to people's branding and marketing, and also prevent just help them not to do the same thing they've done for many years. Sometimes it's not the right, sometimes it's the right way, but sometimes you can just question that and try a new thing, and it will totally work.
Yeah, one of the worst things to hear from a client is when you say, "Why'd you do it this way?" It's because that's how we do it. It's like, oh, there's no thought behind it. Let's change it.
Yeah.
So this has been a super interesting chat, but just before we finish up, how do you keep yourself happy in your work?
I always put on my mask first before I help others. It's not difficult because I really love what I do. I love branding, figuring out why and the what and how to get there. And I absolutely love figuring out the tone of voice for companies because I love the language. It's not difficult to keep myself happy in the work because I love what I do.
Excellent. That's wonderful. So where can people find out a bit more about you?
They should find me on LinkedIn, Svetlana Graudt, Graudt. And I think you will add a link to my portfolio website, my new brand, Raketa.
Everything's down there.
I launched it on the 12th of August. This is the Cosmonauts Day. That's when Yuri Gagarin went to space in 1961. So
amazing.
Yeah, so I love I guess space and rockets. This is why I call myself or my agency. I'm still figuring out the way of talking about myself.
It'll come.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you to everybody who's watched, and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye.